Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
Here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Good morning, good morning.
Yeah, once again, we're going to do this again. Episode number 209. Today's topic is, or headline, whatever you want to call it, 46, Peter. 46 extraordinary advantages to Dazzle sellers, buyers, and investors in every lease option deal.
Holy moly, did you write these down for us? Can we download them? Holy moly, 46.
No, I didn't write them down. You're going to have to do that yourself. I'm not doing everything for you, Peter. Come on. All right, here we go. Take a moment and ask yourself, how many real estate deals can you profitably produce when money or price is not an issue? Plus, you and I know there seems to be hundreds of creative techniques out there to choose from.
Hundreds.
Mix and match them, do all kinds of crazy stuff with them, and there's like, every deal could almost be its own unique deal, right?
Yeah, I've seen you do that. Like, you, what? I go, Of course, that makes so much sense.
Exactly. But most of us have trouble with these strategies because they study them, feel they know them enough, go out and do what they were taught, and more often than not, fall on their face. Yeah, we've seen that way too many times, huh?
Yeah.
Why is this? Is there a common denominator to all of this?
That'd be good.
What if I told you there is one basic step you need to get into your business that makes all these strategies work like gasoline in an engine?
That'd be good.
This unusual podcast is a segue off last week's podcast, episode number 208, which was called What to Say to Real Estate Sellers to Qualify Them for Creative Deals, Even When You Are Stuck. And that was a good podcast.
Yeah.
That was a good podcast. In this episode, we will cover how to use these extraordinary advantages to dazzle your sellers. In this episode, number 209, we will use these strategies. I lost my place here. This episode to cover all these extraordinary advantages and dazzle your sellers, buyers, and investors in every lease option deal while qualifying your sellers to do a creative deal so everyone wins in the transaction. By sheer knowledge of each one of these benefits, you will soon start asking better questions and satisfy your sellers, your buyers, and your investors.
Sounds good.
I got a tall order today, huh?
How's this going to benefit me? Mm-hmm. You don't sell things, buy things, or anything by benefiting just you.
Right. So I have a lot to cover today. So what I want to do is I just want to jump right in, okay?
Go for it.
Here we go. In last week's episode, like I said, episode number 208, what to say to real estate sellers to qualify them for creative deals, even when you are stuck, I covered a lot of theory and may have probably dived a little too deep and maybe buried a few people. Some people got it, but maybe not everybody. And I'm not saying that I'm not like saying that I'm smarter than you. I'm just saying that I was just in my own zone, right?
Yeah, there was a lot there, but still, just the whole attitude, just the whole viewpoint was a big change. Just to keep that in mind.
Right. Well, we definitely let the fur fly, and there are some amazing ways to handle sellers and buyers and investors in that episode. Okay, so if you didn't get it or if you feel like it's a little bit foggy, you should go listen to it again. Matter of fact, you should listen to it multiple times because I promise you, probably well, I'll get to that in a minute. The main topic that we were talking about last week is keeping control of the seller using questions so that you can get a desired result. So after coaching so many people, obviously, and going through so much, experience, one of the things I found is probably the biggest cancer, and that's a nasty way to say this, but like the biggest problem that I find with my investors is they beg. What happens is it's much like playing fetch with a dog, right? So the seller will throw a stick, and you acting like the dog will go fetch the stick and then bring it back to the seller, and then the seller will just throw the stick again. So you'll spend 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever you spend with the seller, and get off the phone and feel like, I think that went good. But then you'll talk to me, especially my coaching clients, they'll talk to me, and I'm like, well, did you ask him this? And did you ask him, oh, no, I forgot. Oh, no, I did this. And it's like, because they're playing fetch. Okay? The seller is controlling the conversation. So one of the things we talked about last week, which we're going to talk about at the end of this podcast, I'm kind of rambling on right now, is that you need to have redirect questions. Now, in episode number 205 and 206, we got raving reviews about those podcasts, by the way, Peter. We got raving reviews. And last week, we got a lot of raving reviews from last week. Because talking to people is the pretty house business. Talking to the sellers is the pretty house business.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't want to talk to people and you're an introvert and all you want to do is just sit behind your computer, then go buy ugly houses, do wholesale, do all that kind of stuff, and you won't have to learn any of the stuff we're talking about. But the magic of the pretty house business is the off-market houses. Those are the houses that are not listed with a realtor. They're not on the market. They might be on Zillow as a for sale by owner or something like that, but they're considered off-market houses. Anything that's not in the realtor system is considered an off-market house. How arrogant of them sons of bitches to say, well, if you're not in our system, it's an off-market house, right? Well, they could just go beep, 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 beep themselves, okay? Because I got a few words for that.
It doesn't count.
I'll start
it doesn't count.
I'll start F-bombing when I start talking about that because they're off market just because it's not in their system. Get away from me, okay? So here's the thing. In the first 5 minutes, with every phone call you make, you should know one of two things. One of two things. And if you are not doing this, then you do not have this down pat. Okay, you will constantly struggle. You will chase deals that are not deals, and the suspects will eat you up like vampires. Okay, so because they're time. Dan Kennedy calls them time vampires, right?
Yep.
Here are the two things. Should I get rid of this guy, or should I put my time into him? You should know that in the first 5 minutes of every phone call. So some phone calls are going to be 5 minutes, and some phone calls are going to be 50 minutes. Who knows? But you need to figure that out right away. And I will tell you that is a skill that is learned. It is not a natural thing. It is not like, everybody, like guys like me just do it naturally. Oh, Bill's a good salesman. No, I'm not, actually. Actually, I'm not. I struggled for a very long time in the house business and in my regular business because of the lack of sales skills. I went and learned it, and I practice it, and I still read about it. I just got done reading a book. It cost me, was an underground book I found. I think it was like $60 or $80, and I just finished reading it. In fact, I just finished reading it this morning. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to start over again. Because it's just an amazing book, but it's about sales, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to give the title, so don't. It's just I want to read it again. Okay, so here's the point: if you have not learned how to figure out if your seller is a seller your way for a creative deal in the first 5 minutes, you need to get rid of them. Okay, so after thinking about last week's podcast a whole lot. I came to the conclusion it would be a lot easier to ask questions if our listeners understood the advantages each deal has for the seller or the buyer or the investor or all three. Mm-hmm. Now, in episode number 205 and 206, which is where we talked about, I don't have the titles here with me, but where we talked about how to handle the rebuttals that the seller gives you, right? So it's all about the seller gives you questions. So how do you answer them? Mm-hmm. You know, and you have to have, I hate to use this word, but persuasive answers. Not like you're going to persuade the seller to buy from you, but you need to keep the conversation going so you can finish your discovery stage and then give your diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Right? So the questions help you with the discovery stage, and then it allows you to put together a diagnosis, which we call our offer. Okay? So what I want you to notice is that last week I told you that everything is with questions, right? You control the conversation with questions. In episode number 205 and 206, if you notice, I would answer your question. Do you remember doing that? So you would ask me a question, you know, like, what is a lease option? And I would explain it.
Yeah.
And then what would I do? I would ask a question.
Then ask another question.
Right.
You know.
So
I mean, you want to find out how it went and if it's a benefit for him or whatever the case was. But that was clever, because if you don't say something, then they start asking something. They start saying things, and they control the conversation. Right?
So episode number 208, which was last week, if you want to hear that in action, go listen to 205 and 206, because every one of those is a redirect question. Mm. So I talked about redirect questions, and I'm going to talk about at the end of this show. But honestly, master the redirect question and keep control of the conversation, and you'll get a desired result out of the phone call or out of whoever you're talking to. And by the way, this works on Peter. This works on Peter's wife. This works on my wife. This works on your marriage. This works in the grocery store. This works at the car wash. Hell, this even works at the smoke shop with a bunch of sarcastic bastards that I live with up there all the time, okay? It even works with them. Okay,
you know, Bill, I wonder if you're running into an inherent problem in people that they think that the way to handle life is to talk at it, to explain it, to teach it. You know, counselors who don't ask questions, who just told people what's wrong with them. Teachers who just keep explaining. As a teacher, I teach more by asking questions. Student says, "What's that?" I go, "Well, what's that?" They go, "Oh, I get it." It is so powerful. I think we just don't know how to do it in general. You know? So that's why, you know, some of your coaching students or me sometimes starts yapping at people, trying to explain it. But you almost everything you say is a question.
Right. Well, not. But see, here's the thing: is you have to do it with finesse, so they don't feel like they are being controlled.
Yeah, or ignored. Because if they ask something, you can say, "Don't ask me that. Let me ask a question." So you do it in a good way, but it's to help them too.
So I get it. You do it in a good way.
Yeah, you're not doing it in a crappy way.
So how did you feel when I just repeated that?
I felt like you heard me.
Right. So if anything, just repeat what people say so they know they heard you. It's like one of the best acknowledgments on planet Earth, right? Okay, so I don't want to get off on that because we'll spend 10 minutes talking about communication, and I'm not here to do that today. So today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about these advantages, right? To each of the buyer, the seller, the buyer, and investor, so that our listeners could feel comfortable with bringing these to the table, right? So here's my thought is I'm going to kind of go through what we're talking about today, and then each listener can like make it their own. They should really listen to this podcast and write these down. I have not written them down. I am not going to do that for you. I'm not going to pay my VA or my assistant or anybody to do it for you. You lazy bastard, listen to this podcast and write them down yourself.
Hey,
thank you very much.
If we do, we'll probably remember it better.
There you go. There.
So,
I said it. I said it, and I'm happy I said it, Peter, you lazy bastards. Write these things down. Stop making me do all your work for you. So here's the point. If you understand these and you write these down and you get them, you will soon start to use them in your presentation. Okay? Because these are like the bombs that you can drop. Right? But more importantly, you'll have more confidence because you'll know what your role is. You'll know what the seller's role is. You'll know what the buyer's role is. And if you're bringing a money guy in, what his role is. Mm-hmm. So what today is even though it's, talking about extraordinary advantages to dazzle everybody, the truth is that it's like a horse farm, right? So it's like you got these little fields and you got these fenced in areas, and a certain horse goes over here, like the crazy horse that nobody can saddle goes in this field, right? And then the really nice horses that the kids ride, they go in this field. And oh yeah, this one over here just had a cow, not a calf, a pony, right? Or whatever you call them. Good thing my horse friends aren't listening. They got a name.
A filly, a colt, a baby.
A baby. And they're over there great. So it's like each one of these has their own bucket or their own field, right? And they're like separated. They're all horses, but they're separated for a reason. Okay, so the point of this is to help you with the redirect questions, which we'll talk at the end about, and to also help you build confidence and sort things out in your head. Okay. So let's start with the seller's benefits. You can literally make the most profitable, low obligation, and fun deals by doing a slot deal or doing a lease option. The barrier is trying to convince somebody that they should take payments instead of all their cash now. That's the barrier. Okay? So how do you get the person that is selling, or the seller, from where they are thinking they're going to get all cash to wanting to make payments? How do you do that? So I'm asking you, Peter, how do you do that? It's a question.
Well, you would have to show them benefits for waiting, for one.
Right.
Like, why should I wait for my money when I can get it all at once? So you have to have some reasons. So waiting would be better.
Right. So here it is in a very concise statement. You are 100% correct.
Well,
but here it is you should know this. You should know this by now. Here it is in a pretty concise statement, okay? Yeah. So basically what we are doing as real estate entrepreneurs, right? Or real estate home buyers, as we talk about all the time, because we're not real estate investors unless we got dough, right? If we got $1 million to invest and we're looking to get a rate of return on it, then we're an investor. Right?
Yeah, invest. We're not investing.
What we are is real estate entrepreneurs. What's the definition of an entrepreneur? Entrepreneur takes all his available resources, puts them all together, orchestrates everything, and has a desired result, right? Mm-hmm. That's an entrepreneur. So we need to do that in this transaction. So the first thing that starts any deal, without this, in the pretty house business, you're shit out of luck. Okay? And what you're doing is you're taking a homeowner and convincing him, not even convincing him, but showing him that if he uses this asset as an investment, in other words, you're turning him into an investor, he could make more money. Or, more importantly, he could relieve himself quicker of the problem and make money.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, who's the investor technically?
Yeah, the seller would be.
Yeah.
And I've said that to people off the top of my head. I said, look, if you wait a while, you make more money. Right. People run around trying to buy houses so they can make money. You already have one. Hang on to it longer and make more money. You've got it. Why throw it away?
Right.
And they go, I guess you're right. Maybe if they.
Right. So you're educating your seller on the opportunities of being an investor, and we have figured out how they could do that safely. They could figure out this so they can keep their assets, their house, or their money that's in that house, right? Whether it's inherited or, however they got it, they can keep it invested in the house. Because really, who's the one that's most confident in that house? The guy that's been owning it for the last couple years or 5 years or 20 years. He has the most confidence. He knows the house, right?
Yeah.
So he's the most interested in the property because he has the most amount of data, he has the most amount of experience. And so, I mean, if you give him $200,000, if the house is worth $200,000, what's he going to do with the money? Can he keep it in as a safe of an investment as he has it? Right. So you got to take that viewpoint first. So the first thing we got to do is we got to overcome the barrier of, well, if I give you all the cash, what are you going to do with it? Now, some people are like, oh, I'm going to pay my daughter's college tuition off. Okay, well, you're not, that's another story. Or, I'm going to retire. That's a good one. I'm going to retire. Okay, well, what's happening is you have an inexperienced investor because they're just thinking of the cash for security. They're not thinking about making it work for them and build and grow. Okay, so I'm doting on too long about this. My point is that the first barrier or the first obstacle, that's a better word, the first obstacle to every pretty house deal is getting the seller to flip their idea as an investor. Now, the way I do that is I tell them, I'm going to turn you into the bank. You're going to be the bank. And oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to go over some of these, you're going to hear some of these in the conversation. So you're going to, the best sentence I think I've ever come up with, and I created this myself, I didn't hear this anywhere else, so I should trademark it, is how you could rent and not be a landlord. So the connotation there is you're going to get money every month from this house, but you don't have the landlord obligations. And you're going to see that in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's me saying, why don't you become an investor? Why don't you turn this asset into some monthly income and get a higher price for it because you're willing to wait for the final payout? Okay? So that's the first thing you got to understand about what we do with pretty houses. Once you get your arms wrapped around that, right, then all of this will fall together in your head. It has to, because that's what we do. So in the first 5 minutes of the conversation, what do we need to figure out? Mr. Seller, are you willing to be an investor and get more money? Or aren't you? Right? So that's what we're doing. The first 5 minutes, we're qualifying them on, okay, so, what do you need? Right? What kind of money, what are we talking about here? Right? What kind of money? What kind of commitment are you willing to make? And how long will it take? How long are you willing to give me?
Right.
Right? So you got to figure those things out fairly quick. Because if you don't, guess what? They will eat you up and spit you out. We call them suspects.
Yeah.
Because what they're going to do is they're going to play you along and hope they could do something better. And the one thing that is scary to me, the most scariest thing in the world. You ready?
Is besides wives?
Wives don't scare me. Wives don't scare me. I've had 2 of them. They don't scare me. It's taken me 40 years to figure it out, but I know how to handle my wife, okay?
Yay!
So, yeah, finally. So here's what scares me. Tell me more about that.
Oh, when the seller says that?
Yeah. Well, I'm sort of interested. Tell me more about that.
Why is that bad?
Because if you don't know how to handle that, you could spend an hour with this person thinking they're interested.
Right. That's when you ask a question. Yeah. Instead of just start teaching and yapping and yapping and yapping and yapping.
Right.
That's when you have to say something like, well, what part of this do you want to understand better? Or what do you need to know about it? Something like that?
So you said it before. What's more important to you? Getting your price?
Yeah.
Or, I forgot, I lost my track of my mind.
It was like, what's more important? You're selling the house quickly.
Oh, that's what it is, yeah.
Or making more money on the sale.
Yeah. What's more important, your price or selling quickly?
Yeah.
And then okay?
Yeah.
Here's another one. Tell me about some of the challenges that you're running into right now with selling your house. Right? So they say, oh, I'm interested. Okay, cool. So tell me, what are some of the challenges you're running into with selling your house right now?
Yeah.
Redirect question.
Yeah.
Puts me back in control.
But it's not just control. It's control because you're trying to find out what the guy needs. It's the oldest thing in the book. Find a need, fill it. That's
Right.
called business. Find a need, fill it.
Right.
Period. So you have to find out what the guy needs, no?
That's right. So let me change the words, and I'll probably do this from now on so it's not confusing. It puts you back into the discovery stage.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't put you in control. It puts you back into the discovery, because here's what happens. I say to you, so let's just role play. This is way off script. I don't even have this.
No,
way off
but
script.
this is like, if you know what you're looking for what does this person need?
Right. So, Peter, you called and left a message on my voicemail about the letter that I sent you in the mail. You know, that yellow letter I sent you?
Yep.
And you have a house at 123 Main Street. So, is it for sale?
Yeah, it's for sale. Yeah.
Okay, how much you asking for it?
We're asking $184.
Okay. So, let me ask you, what's most important to you? Is it the price, or is it something else? Is it the price, or is it the time of when you sell it?
Well, I want to get a good price for it, but I'm on a tight timetable. I need to get out of Connecticut within 2 months.
So what's more important to you, price or the timetable? I'm not saying I'm going to give you like 30 cents on the dollar. I'm just kind of curious because I want to know what to work on.
Well, it would have to be the timing.
Okay, good. So what are some of the challenges that you're running into in selling the house now?
Well, I'm moving to Virginia, and we have
That's it. So you see what happened?
Yeah.
He's now passionate about, because I asked him a couple quick key questions.
Yeah.
He's now selling me. I'm no longer like Dan Kennedy. I'm no longer the pest. I just became the welcome guest. And I did it with redirect questions.
Yeah.
Okay?
And it's not annoying because you're not pestering him with annoying things. You're trying to find out, what are you trying to do?
Right.
I got to move to Virginia. Oh, good. How can I help you move to Virginia? He goes, oh, I like this guy. He's going to help me move to Virginia.
Right.
You're not annoying now.
Okay. So let's go through this because we went way off script and I'm worried about the time. So let's go through the seller's benefits and advantages.
Okay.
Okay. Number one. That's not it. That was a cough. The seller has less haggling over price because if we get good terms, we can pay more than everyone else that is looking to buy this house. Right? Mm-hmm. And if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff, there are videos there that show all the 7 different strategies and how you can figure out which one to use when. It's all been done for you already. And if you want a free course on this, how about the 7 deals, and just send me a support ticket. I will send you a link to a free course, an online course that will show you how to do the 7 deals, how you make the offer, what the offer should be mathematically, not the stuff we're talking about now, and the results, in other words, the money you make and how the whole deal works. Plus, it will show you how to actually figure out from the math which deal you should make an offer to first, and then second, and then third. Okay, so just send me a support ticket, and I will send that to you. Okay, that's at flippinghousesforrookies.com. The top right-hand side. Excuse me, I don't know what my problem is here. The top right-hand side is, it says contact us, and you can get a support ticket there. Okay, so number 2. Second benefit. We, meaning the real estate entrepreneur that's constructing this whole thing, okay, have a larger available market of buyers when we could do monthly installments and we can pay them in full later on. So the first one is we don't have to haggle with you if you don't want. The second one is if you give us terms or time and we can make monthly payments and pay you off, 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years later, we have a larger pool of sellers than anybody else.
Buyers.
I'm sorry, buyers. Yeah. Larger pool of buyers than anybody else. Right?
And why is that, Mr. Hawthorne?
I'm going to go over that.
Okay.
So number 3, there's no worries about repairs. These are benefits to the sellers, right? No worries about repairs and maintenance. They, meaning the seller, can literally rent without landlord obligations, like I was talking about earlier. So they don't have to worry about the repairs. They don't have to worry about the maintenance. They don't have to worry about the lawn. They don't have to worry about the snow. They don't have to worry about the garden beds. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Okay. Number 4, a better qualified tenant who pays on time and doesn't complain because they are considered owners, not tenants. Now think about this. This is a weird phenomenon, Peter, which we're going to talk about later, but this is a weird phenomenon. Our buyer is a renter, correct?
Yes.
Who are they renting from? It's a trick question.
From themselves.
Good job. They're renting from themselves, right? Because technically with the option agreement, they own the house. So they're paying, even though they're paying somebody else, but think about it. Your house, my house, most everybody's houses has a mortgage, right?
Yeah.
So they pay the mortgage company, but they own the house. So our buyer tenants actually sign an option agreement for them, and they actually own the house.
And they think they do too. They treat it like, honey, we got a house, right? They tell their friends, look, we got a house.
So how are they gonna destroy their own house? Not usually.
No.
So they're better tenants.
Well, they're not tenants, really. You know what we call them? Residents.
Residents, that's right. That's exactly right.
I mean, it's a different mindset than a tenant. Totally.
That's right. So you get a better quality tenant, right? So you can explain all this stuff. You can explain to your seller. It makes sense, right? How about this one, number 5? These tenant buyers pay higher rents, which allows us to often let that higher rent float up to our seller, right? So they also pay higher prices because, like I always say, you guys have heard me say this a million times. If you bought my $2,500 Mac computer and paid $1,000 for it and gave me cash, how much did you pay for the computer?
$1,000,
right? But if you swiped your credit card and paid for it over the course of 24 months, you're no longer paying $1,000 for that computer. You're paying more. That's exactly what we do with houses. So if we're going to get more money from our buyer, it would make sense that we can offer it to our seller, unless we plan on paying our seller cash today. Then he's got to give us a deep discount, right? So you got to understand that. When you understand that, you can explain it in your own words, but just understand the concept, right?
Yeah.
Number 6, the repairs houses usually need to sell can be delegated and not be done by the seller. Right? So here's what I'm talking about, okay? So every house I've ever looked at needs repairs. And the seller doesn't think so because, I mean, even houses that I've done renovations on sometimes still need repairs. Okay? And here's the reason why. When you sell a house with a bank, there's going to be an inspection process. Why is that? Most people think that it's because the bank doesn't want to be stuck with a house that needs repairs. No. The bank is not that smart.
Not that smart.
I'm being sarcastic right now. Just realize that the bank is the most insidious thing on planet Earth. That means they definitely, these are the people that do not tell you the truth. They shake your hand and pretend like they're your friend, and they stab you in the back. They're passive-aggressive thinkers. I'm talking about not every person that works in a bank. I'm talking about the guys that run the banks. Okay? Here's the reason why they want you to have an inspection. Because they want to make sure that your mindset is correct and you're going to pay them. So what they don't want to have happen, because they know if I'm a good seller and you're a bad buyer, and I bamboozle you, and then you get into the house and you find out, oh, there's no furnace and it's cold, well, who pays for it? Because I'll be just like, I'm just going to move out and I'm not going to pay my mortgage because the guy screwed me. It's not the bank that screwed you. It's the guy that sold it to you. So the bank knows this. You know, I had a car lot for many years, a used car lot, and we did buy here, pay here, which means that you buy the car here, you put a down payment, and so I did no bank qualifying with cars. That's how I learned the car. That's how I learned it with the houses. That's why I'm so good at it, because I did it for years, and I had a bunch of loans on the road. Well, the reason why I'm telling you this story is because I noticed that every week when people came in and made their payments, they had a complaint about the car. Not everybody, but a lot of them did. You know, So what I would do is at first I was just being the nice guy that I normally am, and I would bring the car in and I'd have the guys check it. Oh, there's a thump in the tire. I'd have somebody look at it, and I realized, wait a minute, I'm not getting paid any more money for this. They feel like I owe it to them.
Yeah.
So here's what I did. This is way back now. This is a long time ago. Okay, probably 20 years ago. So what I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to think, oh, that's no big deal. But you have to realize, when I did this, it wasn't there. It wasn't in place. I started doing electronic payments. So I started taking money, because there was no debit cards. There was none of that stuff, right? There were credit cards, but not debit cards. So we started taking money out of people's banking accounts, right? So here's what I did. Is I kept the people out of the dealership and complaining to me about their cars, and now I just became the bank. So it just came out of their checkbook every single week, and that was it. And all of a sudden, that business became profitable. Okay, so my point in telling you all this is this is how it is with the bank's point of view with sending somebody in to do an inspection. Okay, so I rambled on too long about that, but the point that I'm trying to make here is that that inspector is going to go in there, and he's looking for flaring out points, obviously, but where he's going to get you, and it's going to cost you most amount of money, is in code violations. Because see, your house was built in 1985, and this is 2020, and there's new codes now. So he's going to get you on those code violations.
Yep.
And what he's going to do is he's going to spook your buyer. So I call it bribe money, because the inspector comes along and he spooks the buyer, and the buyer's like, I don't know, which is what the bank wanted, right? Because the bank's like, oh, we don't want to give them a loan unless they're going to pay us, and the only way they're going to pay us is if they have a house that's not broken.
Yeah.
So now the seller has to pay the buyer bribe money to get him back in the deal. Okay? You get what I'm saying, or did I go off on too much of a tangent?
No, that way you fix the problem, you give them money back, but when they move into the house, they're not worried anymore. They'll pay the mortgage, the bank has no problem.
So after going through that whole, you got it, Peter, after going through that whole dissertation right now, don't you think that it's a huge advantage that we could delegate all of that crap that I just talked about to somebody else, and the seller doesn't have to deal with it?
Right, and in this case, isn't it true that the buyer is not going to be that fussy, because this is a person who can't get a mortgage, he can't get a house, and he's grateful to have the opportunity. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's like we're providing an opportunity. This family can get a house. So they have to work a little harder for it, and then they manage. And they wind up with the house.
Right, and the reason why the pool of buyers is bigger is because we're not selling the house, we're selling the financing. Right? So just like you said, if we're selling the financing, like you just said, if they can't get anywhere else, they'll turn their cheek on the rips or the ripped screen, or the back door that doesn't close very well, or the basement that looks a little dingy. Right?
Yep.
So good. I went off too long on the repairs, but I think you get it. How about number 7? No management headaches, or tenants calling when the seller's too busy doing something else.
Yep.
You know, like I manage my own properties, and I can't tell you how many times on a Sunday afternoon somebody will text me and say, you know, they don't even want something. They'll be, you know, they don't even want a repair or something. They'll be like, you know, when is my lease up? You know, why? What's going on? You know, and then you get into this whole conversation. Oh, well, yeah, and you're texting.
Yeah.
But it takes your attention units away from Sunday afternoon activities.
Yep.
Right? So if you could take that away from your seller, like I said, he can rent and not be a landlord. These words are powerful because this is what they don't want to be as a landlord. Right? Number 8, seller remains on the deed and stays in control. So when you're doing lease options or slot deals or anything like that, even those types of deals, they remain on the deed. Right? Now that brings us to number 9. Because they remain on the deed, the seller keeps getting the tax benefits.
All
or
right.
they retain the tax benefits and the tax shelters because they're still on the deed. So even though you're managing the property, they don't have any landlord obligations. They're making sometimes a profit because we'll allow them to have a profit, right? And they get all the tax benefits. Right? How about this one? Number 10. There's no more vacancies for them to have. Or they don't have to give generous credits to get new tenants in down markets. Because we're going to handle that. Especially if we're staying in a deal and we got a cash flow and 15% worth of equity. Right? Even if they do a slot deal, they can call us and we'll help them with another deal. Why? Because we get another deal. We get another deposit, we get another fee. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't even take that long.
No. Yeah, sometimes it's within days.
It's similar to renting in a sense. You put an ad, a bunch of people show up, a week later, boom, rented.
Yep. Number 11, no turnaround expense. This is huge. So turnaround expense means that when a tenant leaves, you got to, maybe, clean it up or paint the wall or fix the toilet or, fix the vanity door that's broken or whatever. You got to get it ready for the new person.
Yep.
In the apartment business, that's a huge thing. Okay? And it should be here. The difference with the apartment business is that, first of all, in apartments, you use cheaper materials, usually. It shouldn't be that way, but most do. And in apartments, they're 600, 1,000 feet, square feet, 1,200. With a house, it's much different. Now you got 2 bathrooms and, in most cases, right? So
and
there's a little bit more.
The outside, too,
Yeah.
not just the inside. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, I lost my train of thought. The other thing is that, I don't know, I lost it.
As far as turning around?
Yeah, so the turnaround, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I know what it is. You're not renting, so now you're selling. So because you're selling, you're not going to just slide by with just, gluing the door on the vanity back together. You have to buy a new vanity and put it in because you're going to sell the property now.
Hey, did you look at my kitchen? In my rental?
No.
It's glued.
Yeah. Number 12, which you would think would be number 1, but number 12. So number 11 was no turnaround expenses when the tenant buyer leaves the property, right? The previous one. So number 12 is no realtor commission or nasty closing costs, right? So that's a huge one. That's the one we use in almost every conversation, which I'm going to get to a little bit later, which is what we were talking about, because just knowing the closing cost on a piece of property and explaining that to your seller is way valuable. Nobody else is explaining that to them. Nobody. The realtor doesn't explain that. The realtor doesn't even know it. You would think they do, but they don't. Their attorney, their closing agent, their insurance guy, the title guy, nobody's explaining that to them. So by you just knowing the percentages of closing costs, which is the 15%, which is 6% for the realtor or marketing, 3% negotiation, 3% for actual closing, and 3% for deferred maintenance, okay? Just knowing them and explaining them to your seller is valuable information that they want. So even if you just went out to people's houses and just did that, you would be providing a service nobody else provides. Okay?
Yeah, I thought of that, but it would be maybe a little bit time consuming, but imagine that, just helping people understand that, so when it came time to sell the house.
Right. Exactly.
It's a service. It's a public service.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so number 12 is there's no realtor commissions or nasty closing costs. Number 13 is no or very low closing cost out of the seller's pocket. And I get this question quite a bit because they're like, you tell your seller that you're not going to charge them closing costs, but then what happens when you go sell to your buyer on the other end?
Right.
Who pays the closing cost there? Well, first of all, the buyer is going to pay a majority of the closing costs. But what I tell people, and I get away with this, I've been doing this for about a year now, and I can't believe I didn't think of it 10 years ago, is I tell people like this: look, I'll pay all your closing costs except for two things. I can't pay the conveyance tax because that's your tax. That's a tax to you. I can't pay that. Now, technically I can, because I did it for a bunch of years, right? But I tell them, you got to pay the conveyance tax. Now, conveyance tax is usually about 1%. So that means you buy a $160,000 house, you're paying $1,600 in conveyance tax. So it's a big number. Okay, a $300,000, $3,000. Okay, so I tell them, you got to pay the conveyance tax, and you have to pay for any legal counsel that you decide you need to feel comfortable. Well, what did I just say?
That you have at most 1%.
No.
You said most you have is 1%, plus if you want to hire a lawyer, it's up to you.
If you want a lawyer and you feel like you need a lawyer, then you got to hire him.
Yeah. But they could do
That's
the
the
deal
closing
with
cost.
But they could do the deal with just the buyer's attorney and not have their own attorney? And would they pay anything to the buyer's attorney?
That's between them. But who's not paying it? Me. So there's your answer. It's like,
Good.
so I get that question a lot. Number 14. You weren't as excited about it as I was, Peter, because it hasn't happened to you.
No, it hasn't. But I've wondered how that works. I know a lot of the expenses are gone, but there's a few things left, but it's not much.
So when you're talking to your seller, you can virtually say to them, or literally say to them, there's no closing costs, or there's very low closing costs. That's a benefit to them.
Yeah.
Right? Number 14, if they don't live in the house, and this is huge, because I've been in houses and done a presentation for 45 minutes to find out they don't live there. And it's an investment property, and then I have to back up and do a whole nother presentation because it just changed.
Oh.
And here's the reason why. If they don't live in the house, there's no capital gains tax for them until the end of the deal, which is often years out. So if you're leasing, there's no capital gains tax to them right now. Right? Now, I'm going to divert for 1 second because this is crucial information that only pertains to some sellers. If they do owner financing with you, or a wraparound mortgage, or subject to any one of those, you get the deed in your name, which is different than lease options or slot deals, right? And they actually give you monthly payments. So the difference between a lease option and owner financing is that a lease just pays for the occupancy of the house. there's no principal reduction unless you design the lease that way, which sometimes I do, often I don't. Okay?
Yep.
An owner finance deal is when someone is paying interest and principal.
Mm-hmm.
In our case, we try to get interest-free loans. The point is there's a principal reduction.
Right.
Okay?
Because you own the house. You actually have the deed in these cases.
Right. So now, if I were to sell my house and make a $100,000 profit from you today, Peter, and I got $100,000 today, I'd have to pay 38% capital gains tax.
As if it was an investment for you.
If I didn't live in it.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be an investment. It was not my main occupancy.
Yeah.
It's not where I lived.
Yeah.
Okay? So 100,000 minus 38,000 is how much money, Peter?
62?
Right?
38%.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So you go from 100 to 62,000.
That's
So
a
now
dent.
So now, wouldn't it make sense that if you had this seller in front of you, you would talk about this benefit?
Hell yeah.
So you say to him, listen, Peter, if you take payments from me, let's say it's $1,000 a month, now what happens is you only show $12,000 worth of income.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you do it the first way, there's $62,000 worth of influx you're going to get of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say my expenses are $10,000 a year to run my business or whatever. It's $10,000 a year. So you take $10,000 and you apply it towards the $62,000, and the rest you pay the taxes on.
Yep.
But suppose you only took in $12,000 a year and you applied the $10,000 towards the $12,000. You're going to keep a majority of the money, right?
Yeah, that sounds better.
So it's an advantage for your seller to do owner financing to save themselves on the capital gains tax. So they're going to save a vast majority of that $38,000. So technically, by making payments and paying them a higher price, you're also giving them back $30,000. So how's your offer right now?
You know, when you do the numbers right and explain all this, there's a lot of benefit to the seller.
Right. So you have to stop begging and start understanding these things that I'm talking about so that you have something to talk about in the house and make yourself valuable to them. You get it?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Number 15. And these you would think are up front, but I put them at the end because they're the obvious ones, but maybe not so obvious for some people. Number 15, a quick sale.
Yeah.
More importantly, how about this one? They sell their house on the date of their choice. Right? I've been running this slogan for 15 years. Sell your house for a fair price, right? On the date of your choice. I forgot the rest of it. It just went blank.
That was good.
Yeah. I think I added top dollar in there. Sell your house for top dollar for at a fair price and on the date of your choice or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay? That's the reason why, because that's what they want. They want a fair price and they want to sell it on the date of their choice. So one of the benefits you have is a quick sale on the date of your choice so they can move on with their life. There's a reason they're selling this house. There's always a reason.
Yeah, and sometimes literally a move. Actually moving.
Well, mentally in their mind, there has to be a start, change, and stop, right? So they have to let go of this house and move on to whatever the reason why they're selling this house. Even if it's like, I can't afford the payments anymore, it allows them to say, okay, by July 15th, I no longer have to make the payments. Oh, good, I can move on to the house. I can go move into that apartment that I wanted to move in now. Or I can go to Atlantic City, or I can go to Las Vegas, or wherever I wanted to go. But they can stop whatever they've been doing and start doing what they want to be doing, which is what prompted them to sell the house anyways. You get it?
Yeah.
Once you get that, it's a tremendous benefit. Okay?
Hey, I thought of something else. This is bizarre. You know how we have the question, is it more important to you to sell the house quickly or make more money? Right?
Right. Well, that's not the question. You made that question.
Yeah. No, you said something like that on the last podcast. How'd you put it?
What's more important to you?
Yeah.
Selling quickly or price?
Right. So that point. But if you do this like terms deal with time, they can sell it quickly and make more money. No?
Yeah.
So like the deal's done, even if they don't have a closing, even if it's a lease, it's like they're done. Okay, the house is set. They keep making money, and it's done, and they make more money. That's crazy.
My job is done. I feel vindicated right now.
What?
Because my idea was to go through these benefits so you can have the aha moments that you're having right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know the benefits, then you can start connecting the dots, and it makes it a lot easier to explain what you do. So you can pull from this library that you have in your head of what to say. Because of exactly what we're doing today. So that's good, Peter. Well done. Number 15. Which I just said, they have a quick sale on the date of their choice so they can move on with their life. Number 16, I put a bonus here. Principal reduction. If you're doing a lease option, don't they get principal reduction?
Who, us or them?
The seller. If I lease from someone, or they do a slot deal, aren't they getting principal reduction?
Can you give me an example? I always hear you say, like, we get the principal reduction, so how it benefits us. Can you give, like, a little example how that works?
Come on, Peter. So if I were to rent your house and you're taking my rent payment and paying the mortgage, who gets the principal reduction?
Oh, well, the seller does.
There you go. That's a benefit.
Yeah. Oh, like on the mortgage. Yeah. Oh, yeah, as far as how much he owes on the mortgage.
Right. Well,
Oh,
what
okay.
else? What else would there be? What other principal reduction would you get?
From our long story, I get it. You know, there's so many different deals where you do the lease option and the owner gets this amount of money, or he gets less because you've been paying it down. He gets more, he gets less, but no, he gets less on his mortgage that he owes.
So we're talking about doing lease options right now. Why would somebody want to do a lease option with you? One of the benefits is principal reduction, because we're going to pay, or the slot person is going to pay rent, and they're going to reduce their mortgage. So if they went 5 years, let's just say, well, first thing is you should know that any mortgage, the first 5 years is almost all principal.
Yeah.
But let's say that they had the mortgage
wait a minute. The first 5 years is almost
all interest.
Interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I said
okay.
principal. It's all interest.
Yeah.
It's no
Yeah.
principal. Okay. So let's say we're 10 or 12 years into the mortgage. They lived there for 10 or 12 years, and now they're out of the house and they're going to rent it. Right? And I'm paying, let's say I'm paying $1,200 for a rent, and I'm subleasing it for $1,500. Out of that $1,200, how much of it is going to taxes and insurance, and how much is going to his principal reduction? Let's just say 2/3 of his payment is going to principal reduction. So let's say his payment's, I don't know, $700. That means $500 or $600 a month is going to reducing how much he owes. Principal reduction, reducing how much he owes. So that means, let's say he's making a payment of $700. Let's just say $500 of it is going to reduce how much he owes on his mortgage.
Right.
That means $6,000 a year you're reducing the principal of what you owe.
Right.
Let's say he does a 2-year lease. That means he reduces how much he owes by $12,000 or more. So by renting to us for 2 years, instead of owing, whatever amount he owes, he's going to owe $12,000 less. Now, I'm not going to get into this because we're way behind on this podcast, but here's what you do. When you're going to talk about this with the seller, you ask them for their monthly statement from the mortgage company. And on that mortgage statement, it shows how much is principal and how much is interest. And all you do is take that mortgage statement out, their mortgage statement, and do the math, whatever it says. It's like principal reduction of $538. And if I rent from you for 24 months, you're going to make this additional money. Is the realtor going to do that for you? If you sell it on the market, open market, is anybody else going to do that for you? Get it?
Yeah, because when the deal closes, he gets whatever the amount was agreed that he would get paid. It's a pretty big amount. So that's where he gets to keep it when he gets paid off.
So
he only
let's
has to give
say,
some
let's
to the
say
bank
when,
and keeps more of it.
let's say I make a deal with him on an option agreement. I'm going to pay him $100,000,
Yep.
and I'm going to pay him $1,200 a month, like I said. Out of the $1,200, $600 of it's going to go to the bank, or $500 a month. I'm sorry, $500 a month is going to pay down. $700 is going to go to the bank. $200 is for interest. $500 is for principal.
Right.
Okay. That means in 2 years from now, when I execute the option, I got to give him $100,000.
Right. He still gets the whole $100,000, but he
Right.
only has to pay.
He only has to pay the $88,000
Yep.
because he paid $12,000 off on his mortgage. So that's an extra $12,000 in his pocket for waiting. Above and beyond, you probably already paid too much for the property. You probably paid, $100,000 for a $90,000 piece of property because of all the other things we're talking about.
Yeah.
Huge advantage to the seller.
Mm-hmm.
And people will not talk about these things because they don't have a list like I'm making for you right now. Study this list and you know what the benefits are, and all of a sudden you'll start getting confidence talking to your seller because you can arbitrarily bring these up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move on because we're way behind. Let's go to our buyers. Are we okay on all that stuff I just ranted about?
Yep.
Let's go to our buyers. Imagine negotiating and moving into the home of your dreams today, getting a chance to test drive the neighborhood, the schools, the neighbors, and buying in several years from now because you had time to handle whatever was stopping you from getting a loan today and buying the house now. Guess what? I'm going to talk about this in a minute, but I'm going to pre-tip my card here.
Yeah.
Guess what? When you're talking to sellers, you have to educate them on all of this stuff.
Right.
Because they feel like they're on the giving end of the deal. They feel like they're paying everybody. They feel like they're being taken advantage of because they don't know if I let you pay me monthly. And there's too much risk for them. Their money's at risk.
Mm.
They're the only one in the game that's got risk. That's how sellers feel.
Yep.
That's why you have to have all these benefits and explain to them that they're getting paid very well for their risk. You have to educate the crap out of your sellers. Your buyers, because of what I just read to you, already know all this. You don't have to educate your buyers. They already know all this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we never really talk about getting buyers, because the buyers already know this.
Well, you don't have to convince them. They can't get a house. You tell them
Right.
they're going to get a house.
Right.
I've heard them I've talked to them, and we advertise sometimes in the rental section.
Right.
You can buy the house, rent to own, and they call up. I can buy it. They're
Right.
flabbergasted. They go, honey, we can buy one. They're
Right.
flabbergasted. You're doing them such a
Right.
favor. You don't have to
Exactly right.
convince them.
And because of that, they beat a path to your front door.
They're
So
lining up.
You put the right ad in, which is usually house for sale, no bank qualifying, or owner financing, or seller financing, anything like that, and they line up.
Yep.
And you get to choose which one to do business with, right? So finding buyers is a lot easier than finding sellers, okay? And
Yep.
here's the reasons why. So let's go through the benefits, okay? They have a very low down payment, usually 2 to 5% instead of 10%. Okay, back in the day it was 15 or 20%, but the banks are a little bit more lenient these days. I've done deals that are even lower than 2%. It depends on what you can do. A lot of times what happens is I'll take promissory notes. Somebody will have a lawsuit or tax money coming, and I'll do my investigatory, my discovery stage, and find out that I'm going to get the money. Like right now, I'm kind of getting screwed a little bit because I have somebody that owes me $5,000 for their deposit money. But because of the COVID thing, that lawyers aren't open, and I was supposed to get it like 2.5 months ago, and I'm like just waiting.
Yeah.
Right? They got into the house. Normally, I wouldn't do that, and had I known about I would have done something different. But they're in the house. What are you gonna do? So now that's number one. They get in for a low down payment. Number two, no bank qualifying necessary until they get ready to cash out with a favorable loan. Number three, If repairs are needed, they can do sweat equity and deal with paying less for the house and less for the repairs because they're not going to pay a contractor to do it. They're going to usually do it themselves. Okay, so they're paying less for everything. The house, the materials, and the labor for the contractor. They're paying less for everything. Okay.
And when they wind up closing out the house, they have built-in equity of $10,000 or $20,000 maybe?
Because they improved the house, that's right.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Number 3. I just said number 3. I'm going to do number 4. Option consideration is 100% credited to the purchase price when they close. So if they give me $10,000 down, until they say to me, I have a mortgage, I want to close, that $10,000 is on an option. It's attached to an option agreement, which is the rights to buy the house. So the $10,000 bought the rights to buy the house. It did not buy the house. It bought the rights to buy the house. So it gave me the opportunity to trigger the sale whenever I want to. So it gives me technically exclusive rights. So nobody else could buy this house except me. I have the first right of refusal for all intents and purposes, right? But once I decide I want to do that, the option agreement cannot close the deal. So what has to happen is you have to write a purchase and sales agreement. Once you write the purchase and sales agreement, the $10,000 they gave you gets applied towards the sale of the house.
Right, which the bank really likes because they see that they put money down. If not, they're not going to finance the whole
Right.
thing. So
Right.
they go, oh, good, they have $10,000 on the house.
So the reason why we do that is because FHA requires between 3 and 5% down. So that's why we get that money up front, because we have enough trouble trying to get them qualified. We don't want to have to chase them for money, because once they get what did my mother used to tell me? It was a derogatory statement. Like, why would a girl live with a guy when you can? What is the saying? Why, when you can get the milk from the cow, why would you want to buy the cow or something like that, or whatever that saying is? It's kind of like the same thing. It's like, why would a guy marry a girl if he's getting everything that they have like they're married? So why would he want to marry her, right? So it's the same type of thing here with the house. Like, why would they want to buy the house when you're giving them everything that they want, right? So why would they want to give you down payment money when they're already there living there, unless there was a threat of losing it? So get the money up front, because you don't want to fight. You got enough battles to fight to get them to close. You don't want to fight that battle too. So just get the money up front. Okay?
It's hard to collect after the fact.
Yeah, that's what my whole dissertation was about. You said it in one sentence. Okay.
Well, it took the whole dissertation for me to get it. That's okay.
So number 4 is option consideration deposits 100% credited to the purchase price of the house once they close. In other words, once you write a purchase sales contract.
Yeah.
Number 5, price is locked in up front, so there are no surprises later. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, my attention went on Jim West on Facebook had a question, so I'm going to try to adjust that, which I don't normally do, but it caught it out of the corner of my eye. All right. So Jim West Patterson says, can they, the seller, cash out refi during your term? Would that screw up the sale to the resident in the 2-year lease? So I think what he's saying is, if I sign a lease with you, Peter, right?
As a buyer.
Yeah. Or as a buyer with a sublessee going in there. Right? So I'm not going to be the person living in the house. I'm going to put somebody else in there. What he's asking is could you go refi the property? And the answer is yes.
Oh.
As long as you don't refi higher than what my agreement is with you, then there's no problem. You could do that.
Yeah, that's just refinancing. Nothing changes, like the house is still in his name, and it doesn't throw the person out who's leasing. The options agreement is still in effect. Okay.
John, the easiest way to think of this is this way, okay? You got an apartment building with 100 people living there, right?
Yeah.
They're all paying your rent, right?
Yeah.
Can you go refinance that property?
Yeah.
Of course you can.
Yeah.
right? It's all gonna determine how much money is. The trick is that the person should not refinance above whatever you promise to pay. And that's where the tricky part gets. Okay, so Desiree is talking about Jekyll Island. We don't want to get started on that. Oh my God! Don't get me on that tangent. Okay, let's go back to the podcast. All right, so we were on number 5 was price is locked in up front, so there's no surprises later. So you know what you're paying when you go in, and there's no secrets. Okay. How about this one, Peter? It's not thought about enough. Okay. Appreciation. So if I sign an option agreement with you for $100,000 and all of a sudden the house is worth $110,000, who gets to keep that money?
You?
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
And I actually have not done this, but I have flapped my lips about it in a house. But one of the guarantees that you could give to a seller is tell them, and this is not something I have in writing, so don't ask me for it. The seller says to you, how do I know that you're going to cash me out in 2 years? They don't say cash me out. How do I know you're going to pay me off in 2 years? So let's role play that for a second, Peter. So let you just be the seller and say, so right. Peter, I want to pay you $100,000 and I want to pay you $800 a month for 2 years.
Well, how do I know you're going to pay me off in 2 years?
So I don't know that because I got to get my tenant's buyer to perform.
Yeah.
So one of a couple things can happen. One, I can call you up, and if you like what we've been doing, we can continue the agreement, and I'll pay you some more money when that happens. I'll give you more. I'll give you more down payment money.
Oh.
Number 2, if you really need me to sell, here's what I'll do. I'll make you a guarantee. I will go get a realtor, a high-power realtor. We'll put the house on the market. I will sell the house. I'll orchestrate the entire sale and bring you your money. Now, I'm going to need to talk to you a few times to, get questions and answers, and you're going to need signed documents. But I will consult the entire sale for you and orchestrate the realtor and the closing and everything that needs to happen. How's that sound?
Oh, that's good then.
All right. So if you're worried about the option coming due and they need to they got a hard date of 2 years, then you just tell them that you'll go put it on the market and you'll sell it. Now, what does that mean? That means that you're going to have to orchestrate with your tenant buyer to get out of the house.
Oh, they didn't perform. They're supposed to go.
Right. But what better guarantee could you give your seller than you'll just go, so you'll orchestrate the deal. Now think about this for a second. If you do this closing and you get paid cash up front, isn't there probably some money you're going to get at the closing?
Well, I was wondering about that actually, because just a quick question. When we come up with the price, we usually have a little higher price maybe because we're waiting down the road. If you sell it more conventionally, can some of that get eaten up in closing costs? And would we still get the full $100,000? Would it be a little short, more?
So you negotiate all that. You negotiate all that. If he says, yes, that's what I want to do, then you say, here's how it works. You know?
Yeah, because you might not get the full amount because we're adding closing costs.
It depends. It depends on what he's asking for the price. If he's asking too much money for the price of the house, then make him pay for it. It's like, hey, dude, you're already asking too much money. I'm already overpaying. I can't overpay and pay the fees.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to pay the fees.
You can't have it both ways.
Right.
You either want more money, you give us time. You want to sell it quicker, it's a little bit less money. So yeah, he just has to deal with the realities of the situation. Good. So what was your question? You had a question?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I interjected because I was thinking about that part, but you answered that good. Because you can always renegotiate if you really have to down the road if things change. Like we're in a situation now.
Time changes everything. All right, so Desiree on Facebook has a question. Can they try to come back after the tenant leaves? Yes. So what she's asking is if you
the
sell me the
seller?
house and I want to take the tenant on, I can do that.
Okay.
I think that's what her question is. Okay, so yeah, those are all agreements you make up front. This is why I'm saying, see what's happening here, Peter? I mean, this is about the fifth time I'm going to say this. By clarifying the benefits, it makes it easier for you to think of all these things that we're talking about.
Yeah, what if?
Yeah. But these are benefits you're going to talk to your buyer with. Okay, so let's keep moving. So number 6 is profit from any appreciation we just talked about. Number 7, like I said already, time for them to check out the neighborhood, the neighbors, how the house works for them, the layout, the school system, the grocery store, the Home Depot, the Walmart, all this stuff like they can test drive their house by leasing to buy. Right? Now, it's going to cost them their non-refundable deposit if they leave, but isn't that much better than the whole price of the house?
Right.
I mean, you put up, we'll say $10,000 for a $200,000 house. Isn't it better to walk away from $10,000 than $200,000 and owing the bank?
Right. And you think, well,
because they didn't like the house, because the neighbor's an asshole.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah, that happens.
Okay, good. Number 8, time to obtain the best and most favorable mortgage so there is no pressure. So how many people want to buy a house and they got to do it within 30 days and all that pressure? You could do it this way and have no pressure.
Yep.
Right? It's like, not that you would do it at your leisure, but there's no pressure. So you can get together your bank statements, you can get, all that stuff with a mortgage guy.
We can shop for better mortgages.
That too. Yep. Okay. Number 9, and this is for those liberals out there. Can you hear me? You liberals, you listening to me? No taxes. I had to joke around with that one.
Yeah.
If Jesse was here, I'd be saying, Jesse, can you hear me? My liberal daughter. There's no taxes to pay. Obviously, I'm joking about the liberals, but there's no taxes to pay. When you're paying your payment, it's all included. You don't have to worry about every 6 months or all that kind of stuff. You get the tax bill in the mail. You mail it to us. We pay it.
Yep.
Okay, because it's part of your rent. Number 10, time to make the house the way you want to make it, with the colors and the yard and the grass and the lawn and garden beds and I let my tenants, sometimes we'll make arrangements like beforehand, especially the handyman specials. We'll make a list of the things that they're going to do, so we make those agreements up front, but it gives them time to do it. It might take them 6 months or a year. It gives them time to do all that, right?
Yep.
Number 11, buyers buys time to fix the credit, save money for deposit, accumulate tax returns, and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of barriers of why people can't get a mortgage. Credit repair is the most obvious one where people think that that's the reason why they can't get a house. But I mean, I've had new business owners that have only been in business for 6 months or a year, and they don't have tax returns. The bank will require 2 or 3 years worth of tax returns before they can get a mortgage. Not always, but sometimes. So that might be one of the reasons. Maybe they want to keep their mortgage, the commitment is, 3 to 5% for a down payment with FHA, but they want to get a conventional mortgage. In that case, they need 15% down to get a lower rate and get conventional. They don't want to pay the pre-mortgage insurance. They're pretty savvy buyers, and, so they want to, keep saving their money and get that better conventional mortgage. Okay, because they just know what they're doing, right? So there's all kinds of reasons. Number 12. And again, I preloaded the best reasons for them to do this are at the end because they're obvious. So number 12 is quick move-in. Just back the truck up, baby, to the front door, and you're in. Once I give you the keys, you're done.
It's not 45 days with the bank. And
no, I've done deals where I showed the house on a Friday, and they move in on Sunday. It could be done that way. And what motivates me to do that, Peter?
Nice fat deposit check and
There
Hip
you
National
go.
Bank.
There you go. Saturday morning, they went and got me a money order or a bank check. And
That's
they
right.
enticed it, 15 grand under my nose. Yeah, I'll work this weekend for 15 grand. All right, good.
Yeah. It's all you have to do is the paperwork, a few forms,
Yeah, well,
and a deposit check.
and a background check, which we do online.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'll have Emma, if I think it's going to happen that way, I'll have Emma do the background check on Friday afternoon so I can check everything out. And then Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning, I'll do my documents and I'll meet them at the house, give them the key, and they literally got the U-Haul truck sitting out front ready to move in.
extremely easy. I got my wife doing it. Just $25 from the tenant. Ding,
Yep.
ding, ding, ding. Push the button. There it is.
Yep. All right, good. So number 13, no lengthy approval process or surprise phone calls days before the closing, causing you to jump through your ass for the closing. And there's no other way to put that language. I'm just going to leave it that way because you do jump through your ass, okay? Because some of those guys are just jerks. You would think they would tell you up front, but here's the problem. A mortgage broker deals with so many mortgage companies. He doesn't always know the details of every deal structure, and he waits for the underwriter to call him and say, well, I could do this loan, but you need to get 3 decimal points after the dollar mark, and then I'll do it. And guess what? Shit falls downhill, and you're at the bottom of the hill if you want to get the loan. So there you go. Enough said with that. 14, you can live in the house of your dreams without a lot of hassle. And number 15, you can leave when you want. You forfeit your deposit, obviously, but that's better than being, like I said, better than being on the hook for the $200,000, right? Mm-hmm. And have a bank and lawyers and all that stuff chasing you for 2 years, because that's what they do.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, and then you got this big strike on your credit report, all that kind of stuff. With this, you don't have to do any of that.
Yep.
We're not putting any strikes on your credit report if you don't pay us. Just get out of the house. Give me the keys, get out, and don't damage it. And you're done. Okay, so one phone call, or one letter, say, I'm leaving by the 15th, and here are the keys. That's it. Okay? All right. Let's finish off with the investor. How about the investor, Peter? We got to take a look at his viewpoint, right? Who's the investor? The money guy.
Right.
Not you.
Why do you need a money guy on these?
Right. Exactly.
Like the whole way. Wait a minute. Why are we talking investors? Go ahead, speak.
Lease purchases have everything an investor needs to make a savvy, profitable deal. So it's really the real estate entrepreneur, not the investor.
Yeah. So because we're not borrowing money from investors on these.
And that's the point that I'm trying to make. Okay.
Awesome.
So in most cases, the real estate entrepreneur doesn't need more than $100 to $1,000 for a deposit. Mm-hmm. Anywhere from $100 to $1,000, depending on what you do. I mean, we could buy these properties for $1 or $10, but I use $100. Okay. Mm-hmm. Remember, Mr. Rockefeller, Nelson Rockefeller said, owning nothing and controlling everything is how you build wealth. Right? Which, by the way, that includes profits. Okay.
I hope so.
Owning nothing, controlling everything is how you get profits.
Yeah.
Okay. Big profits. So number 1, the most obvious, maximum leverage, minimum outlay. That describes my life right there,
really?
Peter.
Yeah, I mean, how little goes in, 100 or a few hundred, and how much comes out?
Often it's infinity returns. I mean, think of it this way: you put in 100, you get 10,000 you get 10,000 now. And then let's say you get $300 a month for 24 months, and then you get another $10,000 on the back end for a $100 investment. Hello?
That's cuckoo.
I don't know why I got to explain this 209 podcasts worth, because that's it right there. Why would you not want to do this? 2. I'm not even going to elaborate on that, because as you can see, I got all red in the face and wound up. I'm spit, and there's saliva all over my computer screen.
Hey, Bill, I just hope people think nobody does this. It can't be done. Nobody would sell this way. Nobody would buy this way. I just hope people think that way so we can have them all. That's all.
There you go.
Be that way.
Number 2, money now with Non-refundable profits. We talked about that. Number 3, money monthly if we stay in the deals for the rents.
Yeah.
We talked about that. Number 4, money later if we stay in the deal for our 15% of equity or more. These are common, right?
That's right, because you build it. You do these, like stay in the deal because there's 15% equity in the house when you get it, so you get that at the end. It's not like if, it's you built it that way from the beginning.
Yeah. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
So learning how to talk to your sellers and qualify them and all the things we teach on these podcasts, is it worth it for infinity returns?
Jeez.
Is it worth giving somebody $100 and controlling their house and making $10,000 now, $300 a month, and then another $10,000 later? Or $5,000 or $8,000 or whatever. Is it worth it? You have to ask yourself, is it worth it? Do I want to do this? Do I want to go through this process of learning so I can do that? Right?
Well, let me ask you this one, though. I mean, it is a process, and I've been learning it, and I feel comfortable with it. But when you get on the other end, you're done learning, isn't it just like a job or just go through the steps?
Well, it's not a job for me. It's just I do it when I need money.
Yeah.
Right?
But
So
it doesn't take long to get them in. Is that on the list?
No.
It takes like 30 days to get one once you turn it around once you get one.
So Desiree's asking if they get the $10,000 back when we're on Facebook. She's asking if they get the $10,000 back if they leave. So Desiree, let's just do this real simple. Let's say you do a deal and you have an option agreement, a lease option agreement to pay $1,000 a month and $180,000 for the house.
Mm-hmm.
Your tenant buyer comes in there and pays you, we'll say $1,300 a month, and they promise to pay you $200,000.
Yep.
So we have $300 a month cash flow, right? And we have a $20,000 profit because we paid $180, right?
Yeah.
And they're paying us $200, so we have a $20,000 profit.
Yep.
So the way to think about this, Desiree, is like this: you're getting $10,000 of that $20,000 now when they move in, and you're getting the other $10,000 later when they close.
Right.
In the meantime, they're going to pay you $300 a month positive cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
If they leave the property and don't close, you get to keep the $10,000. It's a non-refundable deposit, and they know that.
Mm-hmm. Okay?
So go listen to some other podcasts or send me a support ticket like you always do, and I will explain which podcast to go listen to. But the $10,000 they're paying you is for the right to buy the house. So if they leave the house and don't close, they lose the $10,000, and guess what you get to do? It all over again.
Yeah.
Find another buyer that's going to give you $1,300 a month, and they're going to pay you $200,000, and you're going to get another $10,000 deposit. They're going to move in, and if they perform, you do like you said. You take $10,000 up front, you take $10,000 later, but if they leave, then you make another. I've had houses that have had 3 or 4 people in them. I remember one house in North Haven. I think we made $40,000 or $50,000 on the deposit money before we even sold the house. We made $40,000 or $50,000 with my partner and I. We made 40 or 50 grand just with 2 or 3 buyers moving in and moving out. Okay, that was of course over a couple of years, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
But and one of the reasons why I'm still not with my partner is because he was bitching about at the closing about how we didn't make any money, and I'm like, is your memory bad? We made a shit ton of money off this house.
Yeah, maybe somebody spent it,
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Well, let me say something to Desiree, if you don't mind. Desiree, if you had a house and you wanted to sell it, somebody comes along and says, I'll buy it, but I can't buy it for 2 years. Can I just live in it for 2 years? Sure, just live there for 2 years. Why would you let somebody live in your house thinking maybe they'll buy it in 2 years? Well, are you serious about buying in 2 years? Yeah. Okay, give me $10,000 down to prove it. Period. I charge a 2-week deposit for music students in case they screw me up. I want some security. Right. That's all it is.
So, Desiree, if that doesn't make sense, send me a support ticket because I want to keep moving because we're way over time here. So, just send me a support ticket and I'll answer them. But I think I explained it already. Okay? So number 5 for the benefits to the real estate entrepreneur is very little competition. Most won't take the time to learn the stuff that we're talking about in all these podcasts. Okay? Peter.
Bill.
I don't understand. I got to get this off my chest. Okay? Because we're 209 podcasts in. Okay? 209 podcasts. Okay? And I feel like it's taken me 209 podcasts to talk about all these things that our listeners are worried about. I don't worry about any of this stuff. The stuff we're talking about, I don't worry about any of this. You want to know why?
Yeah.
If I spend the right 5 minutes with our seller and find out if they're a prospect or a suspect and do some of the things that we've been talking about in the last 3 or 4 episodes, I don't have to do all this stuff. All this stuff that they're asking all these questions, that stuff only happens in the entrepreneur's head. It doesn't happen in real life. In fact, Desiree's going to jump all over me on this one, but I expect to release very soon. I have a new program, a new tutoring program that I'm going to release on how to do exactly this so that I can literally, in a couple weeks, train people how to do this with sellers in the house. It's going to be like on-the-job training. And I've got a sweet program to teach people how to do this. And I'm going to do it over the course of a couple weeks because it's not that hard. You know, my hardest job is explaining it to you. Doing it, you see me do it, right?
Yeah.
I go out there stinking like a cigar and nobody complains about it. Not even you. You're in the car, you leave, you got to go home, wash your clothes, take a shower after you've been with me, right? But you don't complain. Why? Because everybody wins.
Yeah.
Know how to pre-qualify your sellers and your life will change. The reason why you're having so much difficulty, Mr. Listener, Mrs. Listener, is because you haven't figured out the difference between a prospect and a suspect. That's it. I don't know what else to say.
Yep.
And you're afraid of the suspects, not the prospects, because the prospects do what you want them to do. So you're afraid of the suspects. Well, then I don't know what to tell you. Go off and do like what everybody else in this world does. Right? Go deal with the suspects. Could you imagine, Peter, if I had a realtor agency and I had a bunch of realtors working for me and I taught them some of the shit that I'm teaching you guys on this podcast, what do you think that realtor agency would do? A lot of deals.
It wouldn't be a normal realtor agency.
Right? Cool. Could you imagine? I got to do this. Could you imagine being a realtor, going to somebody's house, looking at the house, having the audacity to tell them that the only way they could sell them is if they redid the kitchen?
Yeah. And
now wait a minute. It gets better than this. So the client goes and redoes the kitchen. And then comes back to them and says, okay, I'm ready. I redid the kitchen. And the realtor sits down at the table and signs a listing agreement. Signs a listing agreement with them. The realtor never once asks them, how much do you owe on the house? Never once. So how do you know? How's the realtor going to know they're going to get their commission if they get to the end of the deal and there's not enough money?
Yeah.
How are they going to know that? Oh, wait a minute. It gets better than that, Peter. Now they don't even ask if they're going to get their commission. Now, how about this one? Until recently, and this is a new fad, but it wasn't up until about a year or two ago, most realtors never even go to the town hall and see whose name is on the deed. So they could have somebody giving them a contract for a realtor and not even have the freaking owner.
Are you serious?
I swear to God. Up until a few years ago, which I never understood, why would the realtor have somebody sign a contract? And the only reason why they're doing it now is because they're too damn lazy and they go on the internet and the internet tells them who owns the house. But I can tell you, I had a lot of realtors sell houses for me and never once went to the town hall and checked to see who owns the house. And you want to know why?
Yeah, why?
Because if they checked, they would have come back and said, who's Naomi? Who's Pete? Who's Dave? Which would be the trustees that are on my house that technically I can't even sign their purchase and sales contract because I'm the beneficiary of the trust, and really the trustee is the one that has to sign the document, and they didn't even know that.
That's funny. Really funny.
Duh.
Yeah.
So, rant over. It's just befuddling to me. They think who they are. Snobs. That's what they are, snobs.
It's not professional, though. You know, that's what kills me. It pretends to be professional, but it's not.
Right. Number 6, no worries about market fluctuations. If the price goes down, you just keep collecting rents until the price goes back up again. Right? Number 7, you're controlling without overhead and expenses that most businesses have. You can have an office in your house like I do. I can go rent an office, but why?
Yeah.
Right? Low overhead. Do you have low overhead in your real estate business?
Sure.
There you go.
Got an office in that room.
There you
That's
go.
your office right there.
It's my office right here. Number 8, positive cash flow. Oh, wait a minute. I said that already. I had to say it twice because it was worth it. It's just worth it. Positive cash flow. Right? Number 9, minimum risk. Like I said, I always say this. What's the only way to lose money in real estate?
Put money in. Boom, boom.
Right. So if you don't put money in, you won't lose anything. And if you're worried about losing $100, you're on the wrong podcast.
Yeah, no, it's chump change.
Go somewhere else. Number 10, peace of mind. And you're doing deals because deals are so easy to do. Now, once you get through some of these last podcasts, now I've really cranked it up on the podcast, Peter. I mean, the last 8 or 10 podcasts, I'm just letting the fur fly, man. This is like coaching material. You know what I mean? It's like I really shouldn't be doing this, but I can't help myself.
No, this is like the whole story. This isn't a teaser.
No.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is how you do it.
Now I'm going to be honest with my listeners. I'm telling you what to do. The coaching will tell you how to do it. So my job here at the podcast is to tell you what to do. If you want to, and I tell you some ways on how to do it, but if you want the real details, you're going to have to get into coaching. I'm sorry. And it's not even because I want your money. It's because it just takes too much time on these podcasts, and because not everybody wants what you want. Everybody's in different stages of their investing career, right? So I just can't do it on a mass production line like I have right now, okay? Number 11, minimum liability because your seller and buyer carry all the responsibility. Right? Your seller has the deed in his name, so if somebody trips and falls, who are they suing? Your buyer has all the responsibility of cutting the grass and plowing the snow and all that other kind of stuff. So what are you doing? You're like the guy at the orchestra with the stick in your hand, waving it around and making all the noise. Right?
Yep.
There you go.
And sometimes you can just stop and they keep going.
Right. It's true.
And I say that because
Some
once
of
you
them
get
might
going,
set
you
it
don't
and
have to
forget it.
do much with this.
I have a property. I was thinking about this property the other day because I drove by it. I have a property. Oh my God, Peter. I don't even know. All I remember is I bought this property for $94,000 on a subject to deal.
Yeah.
And I put a tenant buyer in there 15 years ago. The wife died, and he's living with his son, and they're still there. They send me a paycheck, their paycheck weekly. Not me. They send it to my partner. 15 years.
So why would you not tell them to execute or get out? Because they're paying?
Well, yeah. Well, my partner, because my partner and I still have 3 or 4 houses left. He's still running that deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even care. Because when I walked away, I was like, if he steals those 3 or 4 houses from me, then whatever. But
it's just more money later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I bought it 15 years ago with $94,000. So how much do we owe now? I don't know, but it's a lot less than $94,000. Right?
Oh yeah.
And they've been paying something like $1,400 or $1,600 a month or something like that. He works. He does newspapers or something in the morning, and whatever that pay. He's got 2 jobs. That's his part-time job. So whatever his part-time job money is, he gets his check in the mail, signs the back of it, and sends it to my partner every week.
Okay.
Right? 15 years.
So it really is an investment. In the end, there'll be money.
Set it and forget it, and some deals are like that.
Yeah.
Some deals are like that. Okay. So. That was number 11, minimum liability, because your seller and your buyer carry the responsibility. I haven't done anything except collect the money. Right? Number 12, if done correctly, appreciation. If the market's going to go up, you win.
Yep.
Okay? 13. Now, I want to go nice and slow here, Peter. Because I am going to talk to the fear-mongerers right now. I'm going to talk to the people listening to this podcast that have a fear problem. They're worried about doing a deal or getting stuck, or they're nervous, or I don't have that fear gene. I really don't. I got rid of it some years ago, and I just got rid of it. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't understand this. Okay? I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to talk about it. An assignment fee. At any point, if you're in this deal and you don't want the deal anymore, you just assign it to somebody else.
Oh.
Yeah?
The option's assignable if you write it that way.
So we get into this deal, and you're a brand new investor, and you decide you want to do a deal. You get halfway into the deal and you can't find a buyer. You get 2 weeks in and you can't find a buyer. You don't want to do the lease option thing. You don't want to get involved. What do? You go to the freaking local RIA and you say, hey guys, I got this deal. I want to assign it to somebody. Somebody give me $2,000 for it, and I'll sign the paperwork over to you right now. All right, let's take another scenario. You're in there and the tenant is busting your balls and you don't want to be a landlord anymore. What do? You can go find another investor and assign them the deal. You're out. This is not like a rehab where you go buy the property and you put up, 90 or 100 grand or 300 grand or whatever the number is, and have to run all the contractors. And if you don't want the deal, what do you got to do? You got to go through a closing and all the nasty shit that comes along with it. And you're already painful. You don't want any more pain. But with lease options, you can bail anytime you want. You have a deal, call me, I'll buy it. You're in Wisconsin, call me, I'll look at the deal. You can assign it to me, I'll take it over. Right?
Why not?
Think about it. Any given time you want, you can just assign the deal to somebody else. There is another real estate entrepreneur, or investor as people call them. There is another real estate entrepreneur that's looking to get started that would love to take that deal off your hands. All you have to do is stroke one piece of paper with one signature and you're done. What are you afraid of? Like, what the F? Like, really? Are you that much of a coward that you can't even at least try? Yeah, really. You're that much of a coward that you can't even try. Well, guess what? The way you do something is the way you do everything, because you're just a coward everywhere. You're afraid of your wife. You're afraid of your kids. You're afraid of the grocery clerk. I can't help you. I'm not a social worker. Sorry. Don't do real estate. Stop listening. Go somewhere else. Go put your head under a rock or in the sand or whatever you're going to do and live your protected life. Keep your job, let your boss beat you up, and let your wife tell you what to do and be unhappy. What am I supposed to say? I mean, come on. You do lease options. You do a slot deal. You do lease options. Shit, you could even do an assignment on subject to, and there's nobody out there that knows how to do an assignment on subject to. But I figured it out. I've never, ever read a book, been to a seminar, heard a podcast, or watched a video that says that you can wholesale subject to deals. Assign them. And I told you, Peter, on the phone one day while I'm sitting in my car smoking a cigar, and you said to me, I got about half of it, Bill. If we do one of those deals, you'll have to show me how to do the paperwork. To me, it's simple assignment. I'll tell you exactly how to do it. There's nobody teaching that. Nobody. Mm-hmm. So if you get nervous, just assign the deal. You got a lease option, you got a slot deal, or you got a subject to deal. Hell, if you got owner financing. My guys in Texas, that's what I do with my coaching clients in Texas. They say they can't do lease options, so don't do a lease option. Well, how do you do a slot deal? You do owner finance paperwork, and you assign the paperwork to your buyer. Hello, this is not no secret. Right? Peter's speechless. I'm looking at Peter. He's speechless. He doesn't know what to say.
I mean, I could put my 2 cents in, but you just put about 44 cents in. I mean, A, $100 option deposit, big deal. B, you don't promise the seller you're going to sell the house. You say, I'm going to go look for a lease person. C, they're not hard to find. D, if it doesn't work out, you're like a realtor. I tried to sell your house for 6 months, and I blew it. Sorry, goodbye. End of story. It happens every day 3,000 times. Yep. The house doesn't sell. The realtor goes home and goes sell something else. And the person with the house goes, oh, it didn't sell. End of story. This is similar or even less. The end.
Number 14. Number 14. Let's move on because I'll go on for another hour on that one. Number 14. No. I don't talk about this a lot, Peter, but I have to bring it up because it is a benefit to the investor. The way I write my contracts, my option agreement, is I put that you can buy the house for $200,000 the first 12 months. That's your sweet spot, Mr. Seller. I'm sorry, Mr. Buyer. That's your sweet spot. If you decide to go into the second year of your option agreement, you are going to pay 0.5% per month increase. So if you pay in the 13th month, you pay 0.5%.
The lease fee.
No.
Or the lease fee or the price? Oh, the price.
Yeah, the option agreement.
Price. Yeah, the price. Okay.
So if you pay in the first 12 months, you pay $200,000. If you pay on month 13, you're going to take the $200,000 and add 0.5%. Okay. If you pay on the 14th month, you're going to add 1%. Every month it accumulates 5%. 0.5%. I'm sorry, 0.5%.
0.5. Oh, every month.
Yeah. So at the end of the second year, you elevated the price of the house by 6%.
Wow, that's incentive.
Okay. So now, put the brakes on for a second, okay? Because I'm going to back way up. You're going to back way up, and I'm like way overboard right now. We're way over time. We're way overboard, and maybe I'm going to crash my statistics right now. But I said to you earlier, we can guarantee the seller that we'll go find a realtor, right?
Yeah.
Well, where did the 6% just come from?
Oh, well, wait a minute.
So if they wait till the end of the 2 years and they didn't execute the sale of the sale of the house,
yeah,
we can raise it by 6%, right?
Right, but that's if they buy it.
That's if they buy it.
Right. If you get a realtor, does that help you?
You give them the new price at the 6%. This is how much I'm going to sell for.
Oh.
It's not really a great strategy, but you get the concept.
Yeah. As long as the market supports it, you can certainly try it.
Right, exactly. Okay?
Yay, appreciation.
Number 15, a great way to get experience doing your deals. So, my course, How to Buy Real Estate Without a Loan, which is $500, is designed to do everything. You don't need me. It's a do-it-yourself course. It is what my acquisition manager, when I train them, uses. It's got everything you need. I can't even begin to convey the successes I have with that course. You know, people that make deals within days. I've got people that made $200,000-$300,000 over the course of a year. I mean, I got so many success stories. I don't even know where they are anymore. Emma keeps them somewhere on a hard drive because there's so many of them because the course is extraordinary. Okay. Reason why I'm telling you this is because for $500, and by the way, I got a 3-month pay, and I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just telling you for $500, you can go learn everything we're talking about right now. If you did 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 deals, would you say, Peter, that if you stumbled across a cash deal where you want to do like a rehab or you want to go get a private money lender, right? You can say to that private money lender, oh, I've done 4 deals. I've done 6 deals. I've done 2 deals. I've done 3 deals. Right?
Yeah.
By doing lease options, the advantage is that you get the experience. So when you start to go do those cash deals or those bigger deals, you can say, oh, you know what? Let's just make this really dumb, Peter. Let's make this really dumb. You go to the RIA and you tell everybody, yeah, I've done 6 deals.
Yeah, it is.
It's bargain rights.
Yeah, and it's actually fancier than just a rehab. You know, who can't buy a house if you have enough money, hire some contractors and pay them too much, and then have a realtor sell it for you? Who can't do that?
Exactly.
But this is fancier. If you can do these, like a rehab is like, just different animal.
Exactly. All right, so last thing before we go, so that's all 46, okay?
Geez, you did it.
Yeah. Last thing before we go is last week, and I just want to summarize this because we talked about it in the beginning. Last week, we spoke about being in control of your deals by asking questions and learning the needs of the deal, the money portion of the deal, the timeline of the deal, and the commitment of your seller. Okay, those are important. This also works for your buyers and your investors too. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I spoke about the redirect questions, where you answer questions with questions using finesse, so the seller, the buyer, or the money guy don't notice what you're doing. And I'm not talking about being covert or salesy. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about getting information in a conversational manner.
Yeah, nice and natural, polite.
These benefits I've just listed will help all these redirect questions, these 46 benefits, like I said to you before. So let me give you a couple examples and then we're going to end off, okay?
Sure.
Seller says to you, I want all cash. We haven't heard that one before, have we?
Who doesn't want all cash?
Your answer, this is the redirect question. Your answer, makes total sense, Mr. Seller. Let me ask you, what's more important to you? Selling fast or getting a higher price?
What's more important to you? Selling fast or getting a higher price?
Then you know what benefit the seller wants, and you don't need to figure out how to produce the money, the time, and the right commitment. You just got it all in one sentence. So I don't understand what the problem is.
Bill, you know what you do really, really good? You're like a computer. A computer has 0 and 1. It has choice A or choice B. That's it.
Yeah.
And I think what happens to people is they're in the middle of some kind of situation. They think they have like 15 things to think about, and they don't know which one to think about first, but they don't. It's either a pretty house or an ugly house. It's either cash or owner financing. They either need the money right away or they can wait a little bit. It's kind of like, if you think of it, there's 2 questions at any one time. Like A or B, then it's A or B, then it's A or B. And it's not that many things to worry about. Just get it organized in your head, ask the right questions up front, and go forward. Am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right. We should probably make a flow chart. So I want to keep going.
Flow chart.
Here's another one, right? I want all cash. I don't want to do terms. Okay, so you're saying, Mr. Seller, if I can bring you a qualified tenant buyer that will buy at a higher price, do all the repairs and maintenance, and pay you on time each month, that wouldn't work for you? Would it?
Okay.
Here's another one. How long is the term?
30 years.
Yeah, I wish. Answer? What's the longest you think you can do?
Yeah.
So, I've exhausted all these avenues. We're probably going to move on because I've probably gone from episode 203. There's been at least a half a dozen episodes where we've been talking about this. Closing people and sales questions. And the bottom line is if you don't know how to do these redirect questions and you don't know how to use them to qualify your seller up front, then you're an average investor, you're an average salesperson, you're an average realtor, you're just one of the herd. And quite frankly, I feel sorry for you because you're going to wander off into the sunset and we're not going to know who you were. You're not going to be making deals, or you're going to make a lot less than your full potential. Knowing how to talk, it was like I made a mention one time. The chiropractor that I know, he shakes your hand. He says, "How you feeling today, Bill?"
Oh man. ABC.
Is that
ABC?
No, it's not always be. No, it's not always be closing. It's
No?
just in that particular case, he's asking me. Let me interpret that question to you. He's asking me how much time he's going to spend with me right now.
Okay. Is it ABD?
Always be discovering, yeah. Right? It's a discovery question.
Yeah.
Like, now if I'm at a party or something like that, then that's one thing. But if I'm at a business meeting or if I'm out networking, especially a networking meeting, right?
Yeah.
You're a chiropractor, I'd say, how you feeling today? Right? Why don't you come on over to the office and I'll, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. Great question. So, I think I've beat a horse to death here. I think I've done it for several podcasts. And I'm sorry for some of the people that don't find this interesting. I don't know who wouldn't, but this is the difference between Superman. I was going to say Spider-Man. But I can't do that because some people like Spider-Man. The point is this is what makes really good deals. Is sifting and sorting. So you should crank up your deal machine so you have sellers coming to you, and you should be able to sort them quick. Now, last thing I'm going to say before we end off. If somebody, Peter, doesn't pass our qualifications, what do you do with them?
If they don't want to do a terms deal, well, is it possible we could do a cash deal?
If they give us enough of the discount.
Mm-hmm.
So we test that. So we check to see if they want to do a terms deal, and then we check and see if they will give us enough of a discount. If that doesn't happen, what do?
You walk away and talk to somebody else.
Right. That's wrong. That's the incorrect question.
Damn. What's left?
Put them in a follow-up system because time changes everything.
Oh, sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
Get that machine in the front of your business, and you'll have consistent cash flow.
Yep.
Like right now, I'm working on mine because I'm not happy with it. I don't have enough deals I'm working on.
Yeah.
So I'm working on. I got a few ideas. You've seen some of them.
Yep.
I got a few changes I'm making. I've got Emma leaving, and I've hired some new people, and I've got a few things going on because, believe it or not, for the first time in I don't even know what made this happen, But I'm like, I want to do deals again. I want to do multiple deals a month again. I don't know why. It just, the mood struck me, I guess.
Yeah, me too, totally.
It has nothing to do with money. For me. It just, I just want to get it going again. So, all right. So thank you everybody for listening. Thanks for all the guys on Facebook. The Facebook thread has a bunch of answers and questions on there. You should go check it out. Thanks for that. And go to flippinghouseforrookies.com. There's a bunch of stuff on there. The podcasts are on there. There's blogs on there. There's free stuff on there. There's a whole bunch of training on there. This podcast is on there. And make sure you go to whatever podcast platform you're listening to. Please subscribe. And also leave us a review so we can see them. If you're leaving reviews in someplace other than iTunes, please send me a support ticket that you sent me the review and let me know where it is. If I can find the review, if I can go out there and find it, I'll give you a gift. And it's
a gift?
Yeah, I do that a lot. And sometimes it's more than I should. So there you go. So I appreciate all of my listeners and the support that we get, not just me, you and I. So with that said, anything else, Peter?
Go practice asking people questions when they ask you questions.
That's right.
Practice. Start with
Redirect.
your wife and your kids and your coworkers. Just practice asking questions to find things out.
And redirect.
No?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we'll talk to you next week. Over and out. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.